Hello, I'm Matt from Practical BI, and welcome to the second part in our tutorial series of Power BI Basics. So again, this tutorial is aimed at absolute beginners. We're assuming you have no knowledge of Power BI or very little knowledge of Power BI. And this time we're going to cover three topics. We're going to start off by looking at visual interactions. So that's the way that we can interact with our different visuals and the impact that that has on other visuals. We're also going to look at the page formatting, so how we change the appearance of our page and the size of our page, and also how we add text, shapes, and images as well to our dashboard. So how we start to make it look and feel how we want to really. Okay, so let's dive straight in. Okay, so I'm in my report, just as we had it last time at the end of the last tutorial. Got my single bar chart here as we created last time as well. So let's have a look at some visual interactions. So I'm just going to add another visual on here. Let's add a pie chart. And I'm just going to add a couple of fields as an example here. Let's just add product and into my legend field and units sold. And that's my values here. Okay, and I'm just going to expand that out a bit. So first of all, let's have a look at what happens when I just select one of these products. So I'll just select VTT here. As you can see on my pie chart, all of the other segments have faded out. And on my bar chart now, I'm just showing the values against each country and each segment for that particular product, just for VTT. So you can see faded out in the background are if I didn't have any selections, and highlighted are those with selections. So this is the kind of core visual interaction within Power BI, and one of the elements of Power BI that makes it such a powerful tool and allows that self-serve element for the customers, the users of the dashboard. So that's kind of one method of visuals interacting. Let's just demonstrate that again, but specifically so you can see what's happening with regards to that product. So I'm just going to copy this chart. I'm just going to move it down here. And this time for simplicity, I'll just take out the segment and the country, and we'll just add product in to our axis there. And now if I click on VTT again, you can see that the only product that's highlighted here is the VTT. So you can see how that's working, just highlighting the selection that we've made in one chart and applying that to our other charts. Now, this method of highlighting within Power BI is called, this method of interacting within Power BI is called highlighting. And there is another option here for how visuals interact. And we can either change that on an individual visual basis, or we can change that using the settings. So let's have a look at both methods. So I'll start off going into the settings. So I'm going to go to my options and settings here. I'm going to go to my options. And I'm going to go down to my report settings, and I'm going to change my default visual interaction from cross-highlighting to cross-filtering. Let's select that, just click OK. And now when I select a product, let's have a look at what happens this time. So I'll select VTT again. This time, as you can see, while I still got the fading on the visual that I've selected, my other visuals have removed all the data or are only showing the data where for VTT for all my selection. So I can see I've only got one product on my bar chart at the bottom, and all of my numbers are updated to reflect just the VTT product in my chart up here. Okay, so I can deselect that. I can select again, and so this is the cross filtering as opposed to cross highlighting method of visuals interacting. And one more tip just before we go into editing these interactions in a bit more detail. I can make multiple selections by clicking on one segment here and then holding the control key on the keyboard and selecting another segment, and I can select as many as I like. My visuals will update accordingly. I can deselect in the same way by holding control, and that way I can customize the selection as much as I want to. Okay, so let's look at that second method now of altering the way that visuals interact. So you may have noticed that the way that we edited the setting previously in the options there was to change the default from cross-filtering to cross-highlighting. So, or vice versa, sorry, from cross-highlighting to cross-filtering. So instead of changing the default this time, let's look at changing all, an individual's visuals interaction with another individual visual. So I'm going to select my pie chart again. I've gone to the Format tab on the ribbon at the top, and I'm just going to click Edit Interactions here. Now you see that there's a couple of extra icons that have appeared against each of my existing visuals. So I've got 3 icons actually. I've got one that represents the filter, one that represents the highlight, and one that represents none. So this is with the visual that I've got selected, this is saying how do I want this visual to interact with my other visuals on my report. So I could change this one back to highlight, so you can see that at the moment, or previously I had filter selected. Let's change that to highlight, and let's just leave my filter one as it is, and let's see what happens when I select a segment there. So you can see that now on this visual I'm highlighting, but on the bottom visual I'm filtering. And we could edit that further, so let's deselect there, and if I just select none on my visual at the bottom, now you'll see that when I select VTT, while I'm still highlighting at the top, nothing has happened and there's been no interaction, no cross filtering or cross highlighting on my visual at the bottom. So if you want users to be able to make certain selections that affect certain visuals and not others, or affect visuals in different ways, this is how you can edit them. You do obviously have to be careful that you make it clear in your report where a filter is going to apply and where it isn't, to avoid confusion with the users. Okay, so the next topic that I want to look at is page formatting. Now, page formatting may seem like a very minor topic and not important in the grand scheme of things compared to some of the technicalities of data modeling and DAX and some of the other parts of data wrangling within Power BI. But actually, the way that you present your dashboard is crucial to how valuable it is to the customer. And obviously, we don't want style over substance, we want style and substance. So let's have a look at some of the ways that we can format our report here. So first of all, I'm going to deselect all of my visuals. I'm just clicking on the canvas to deselect all visuals there. And I'm going to go over to my paint roller here, my Format tab. I'm going to select that. You'll see that we've got various information, various options here about the page. So the first I'm going to go to is page background. And we're just going to change the color here to another color. You can choose any color you like. I'm just going to choose a pale orange. You notice nothing happening at the moment because I've got my transparency set to 100%. So let's just reduce that down to 0 so you can see the impact that's having. So I can change my background here to any color I like. And I'd encourage you to spend some time trying to define a theme, a color scheme, and corresponding icon set perhaps, but a general theme and feel for your reports. And we'll look in other videos at how we standardize those themes, how we save them and import them and export them into different reports, and also how we create templates using those themes. But for now, just to demonstrate this, I'm just going to select a kind of a pale grey there. Not particularly exciting, but at least lets me draw out some of the borders of the visuals. I could also, if I wanted to, add an image here as a background, and that can be a good way of making your dashboard look more professional, or making your report look more professional. But let's leave it as that for now. So I'll just minimize my background here. Let's just have a look at page size as another option. So the default here is the 16:9 ratio. There are other options, so I could go for 4:3. Again, important to understand your customers and how they're most likely to be viewing your reports here. There's letter, tooltip, which is specific to adding pages as tooltips, which we'll look at in another video. And custom, I could specify my size in pixels, and I can specify my width and my height there as well. I'm just going to leave that as 16:9 again here. And I won't make any further changes at this stage. We'll cover some of the other options here later on. So let's just have a look at a couple of other ways of starting to try and make this dashboard look a bit more professional. So under the insert menu at the top here, I have a few different options, but let's just look at these elements on the right hand side here. So I have text box, buttons, shapes and image. I'm going to leave buttons for now again and do look at these in another tutorial video. But for now, let's just add a text box. Now, these work in similar way to using PowerPoint or other Office 365 tools. So I could type in my title here. So let's call this product sales. And I can highlight my font, highlight my text here, and change the font. I could use any of these. So go bold, for example. I can change the size, and I could change the color if I wanted to as well. Again, I can go to my background on my options on my visualizations pane here, and I could make that transparent. So I just take the transparency up to 100%, or I could just turn it off. Two ways of achieving the same outcome. I'm going to just resize that text box. I'll move that up to the top as my title. I'll call it product sales actually rather than product sale. And just selecting that text box again, I'm just going to go down to the visual header, and I'm just going to turn that off. In my experience, you don't generally want users or need users to be able to access any of the options with regards to particularly a title text box. And so it can just create confusion if you've got the extra options popping up when they hover over the title. So it can look a bit more professional just to leave that off there. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to add in is I'm just going to add in a banner at the top. So I've just gone to my shapes there, selected rectangle, and I've got a rectangle that's appeared with a border there. I don't really want my my border line showing there, so I'm just going to take line off, and I'm going to do that by changing the weight down to 0. You can see there the lines disappeared. You might be able to see still, difficult to see like that, but if I drag this over, you can see that there's actually still a gap there in the size of my rectangle versus the frame. If I just go to my fill option, I'm going to turn the fill off, but I'm going to turn the background on here. I'm just going to choose maybe a different shade of grey, and I'm going to drag this all the way up to the top just as a bit of a banner there, a divider between my title and my visuals. Now, first problem there is obviously that we can no longer see our text box, but the way to solve this is easy and again works in exactly the same way as other Office 365 tools. So I can go to Format at the top here. I can drop down on Send Backward and go Send to Back. The layering works in exactly the same way here. So now when I deselect my rectangle, you can see that I've got my product sales text box that's appearing on top there. Okay, and lastly, I could add in an image if I want to. So again, works in exactly the same way. I could select any image. Let's just pick the Practical BI logo, and I'll just resize that and pop it at the top of my dashboard up there. Okay, so you can see that the dashboard is starting to look a bit more like a full dashboard. We're moving away from just having a single visual to having a dashboard up here. I'm just going to go back down to my pages at the bottom here and start to clean this up a bit. So let's remove page 2. We're not using that at the moment, so I can do that just by clicking the little X at the top here, or I could right click on the page and click delete page, confirm that I want to delete that. And I'm going to rename this page, so I could either double click on it to rename it, or I can right click and rename again. I'm just going to call this product sales again, just for clarity. Okay, and that's everything for this tutorial. As always, if you've found this tutorial useful, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for future content or other things you'd like to see in this tutorial, then please do add them to the comments box. Similarly, if you have any other feedback, then I'd love to hear it. Please add it to the comments. So thanks for watching, and look forward to speaking to you again.